Starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hey everyone, it's Brian Kaz here. I have another Wednesday marketing webinar for you this week. Sean's actually overseas on a vacation, so it'll just be me. But we have a pretty exciting call for you today on 3 powerful ways to disrupt your market and get traffic, leads, and sales. And it doesn't really matter kind of what your market is or what your niche is, or if you're selling a product or a service or anything like that, or even in some cases you could apply this to just being an affiliate and stuff too, although it's probably a little more geared towards having a product of your own, but you can definitely kind of spin a lot of the stuff into almost anything you want there. And we'll talk a bit about a handful of ideas and examples that you could do even if you don't have a product to start with. So we thought this would be a pretty cool call, especially when there's a lot of people oftentimes asks, well, how can I jump into a market where there's lots of competition, or how can I possibly stand a chance up against like these really big guys? And in a lot of cases, you'll actually find by the end of this call, having lots of competition, having guys that have like basically ad budgets and market shares like 1,000 times the size of yours, that's actually a good thing for you in a lot of cases, as long as you follow some of these methods that we'll basically be talking about here. So oftentimes I get guys that get afraid if there's a place that spends like millions of dollars in ads, they think, hey, there's no way they can possibly compete against those, but actually that's a good thing for you if you play your cards right. Even if you have like little to no budget or anything like that. So we'll give some examples of that in just a bit here. So hopefully you enjoy this call, and we'll also have an extended Q&A at the end as well. So about half the call will be basically going through these tips and stuff right here, and the other half I'll basically reserve for any questions you guys have, whether it's related to this stuff or basically anything outside of this as well that has to do with anything with marketing or anything like that is fine. So feel free to get those questions ready, and I'll take a look at those towards the end in the Q&A. So without further ado, we'll get the show on the road on, again, 3 powerful ways to disrupt your market and get traffic, leads, and sales. And as always, welcome again to these calls. They're every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern time, which is right about now. We'll do a live training and or like a Q&A call. If you're here or you're registered for this series, you'll get a reminder each week so you don't forget. But if you can't make one, we'll have the recordings in the members area within a day of any of the calls under the training tab on the left side navigation bar. And if you want a chance to win $100 today, make sure to join our free Facebook group, which you can. If you just go to getwebfire.com/FB group, just click join if you're not a member yet. Sharon will probably approve of you within like a couple minutes if you do so soon. Then towards the end of the call, we'll give you instructions on what to do to get a chance to win $100. And we'll actually do the drawing live at the end of this call. Now let's move on to our training for this week on how to disrupt your market. So for the overview, we'll first basically talk about the 3 ways to disrupt your market. Then we'll give examples and specific tips for each one, and then we'll follow it up with our extended Q&A. So again, any questions you have related to this or any marketing stuff at all, feel free to write those down. I'll get to those in the second half of this call here. So first, 3 ways to disrupt your market. Way number 1. And again, we'll go through each of these one by one with specific tips and examples for each one. So don't, if you're confused on one, don't worry at all, because we'll explain that in a bit. But way number 1 is to give away or be dirt cheap what basically others charge a premium for. Now that doesn't necessarily mean be the cheapest guy on the block, nor does that mean you want to sell the exact same thing for a lot less and continually lower your price. That oftentimes does not work, but I'll share in just a bit what that means and how that method right there works. The second way is to be the easiest, but not necessarily the most advanced offer or tool or whatever out there. And again, we'll explain in just a bit what that means right there. Well, the third way is to be everywhere your prospects are looking. And again, we'll give specific examples and tips and stuff and methods that you can do for each of these right there. So moving on to number one, which is to give away or sell for very, very cheap what others charge a premium for. Now, one way to stand out is to give away or sell for a much, much lower price what others are charging a premium for. And when I say give away or sell dirt cheap, I don't mean like if someone sells a course for $100, don't sell it for 90 and think that, you know, that's what I'm talking about. Or if someone sells a product for $100, selling it for 90 bucks isn't really what I'm talking about right here. I'm basically talking about if someone has like a software tool that they sell for, let's say $1,000, you could give it away for free, or even like a cheaper version of it for free, or sell for, let's say, 50 bucks instead of 1,000. Now, that's normally crazy to do, and that won't make you a lot of money unless, of course, you're able to monetize it, especially the back end of it, and make a lot more off that through upsells and back end offers. This also can work with like free plus shipping offers. So like let's say you have a product, and let's say, I don't know, let's say it costs you five bucks, okay? So it costs you $5 to have the product and ship, the product and all that. And let's say there's a lot of places out there that sell it for, I don't know, $20, okay? So all of a sudden, you have a lot of guys that are selling it for basically 20 bucks, and it's kind of hard to kind of stand out there. Even if you sell it for 18 bucks, it's still a bit tough, because then you get into like a pricing war, and and there might be tons and tons of competition. So instead, in that case, you might have it be free, plus they pay like, $5 or $6 for shipping and handling, or some offer like that, where all of a sudden at that point, your competition doesn't really want to mess with you, because at that point, you're breaking even. Like, you're not making a profit. So you're like the cheapest guy out there, and you're giving it away. And normally you might say, well, if I don't make anything, why is that smart? Or if I even lose a couple bucks, if I have to advertise it, why is that smart? Well, you can make it back through the back end, through having upsells, emailing them additional offers. And what you can oftentimes find is that if someone buys even a $5 thin off of you, okay, they're far more likely to buy additional thins if you have relevant offers. Sean and I have some offers out there in various niches where, we might even lose, a few bucks on the front end, but over time, we might make several times that all back, because we have a good back end, we have several upsells, so on and so forth. And it doesn't have to be with a physical product. Obviously, you wouldn't want to give like $1,000 item away for five bucks and lose like almost $1,000 a sale. But what you could do, like outside of a physical product, is let's say there's a popular software tool or anything like that. If someone sells it for, let's say, $5,000, you could come out and have a product that does not necessarily everything, but does the core of what that does, and you could give that out for almost almost nothing, or even free, as long as you have a decent back end offer. And you see this with like a lot of times, if you can monetize the upsells and the back end offers, but you're the cheapest guy on the front end, you'll eventually get a lot more sales and make a lot more money over time. Because when people see that there's a choice between a paid option and a free option, even if the paid option's a little bit better, or even a lot better in some cases, people will gravitate towards the free option, because people don't like spending money on basically anything. That's the same way, like if you look at like a long time back, well, not actually terribly long back, but years back, if you were to get like a GPS device, you'd have to pay a monthly fee. And initially, when the first guys were the only ones on the block, that worked, people liked it. But then when there was an offer where, hey, you only had to pay each time you do like an upgrade, and you didn't have to pay like a monthly fee or anything like that, all of a sudden everyone gravitates towards that, and those guys can disrupt the entire business. Or same thing with like cell phones and stuff now, especially in the States. Not too long ago, most of the plans out there, you'd have to pay, for, basically anything over X amount of minutes or X amount of texts, you'd have to pay for every text. You don't only get X amount of data. And I know in some countries out there, they're still a bit like that, but in a lot, especially in the States and stuff, almost every plan is unlimited now. But they make their money on the back end. Like there's additional things that you'll be sold on, additional features and stuff like that they make a lot of money on the back end through. But you really want to, if you have the cheapest offer out there, you can get a lot of guys to kind of rush in. And you've seen that in the US, a lot of the cell phone places like AT&T, US Cellular, for Verizon, and all those guys, initially they charge you like a decent fee. Their plans weren't necessarily the best. And there was like a lot of like extra fees that you'd get like basically completely ravaged on, and they charge like all these weird fees and all that. And then about maybe 2 years ago, there was a cell phone place called T-Mobile, which at the time was largely unknown. They came on the field and basically said, hey, we're basically offering a cheaper plan with unlimited everything. There's no extra fees or anything like that. And on top of that, if you travel overseas, we'll give you free data, and we'll give you all this other crap, free text and all that to overseas, where all the other plans would charge like, hundreds of dollars for that stuff, even if you just used it for like an hour. And what happened was, in the course of a year or two, they became much, much bigger, and they kind of pushed out a lot of the larger guys, like AT&T and US Cellular and guys like that used to be huge on the cell phone front, now are kind of much smaller than what they actually were. And that's because a place came in to kind of disrupt basically the market with a better offer at basically a cheaper price and including more stuff. Even if at the time the receptions of the others tended to be like a little bit better, people didn't care. Now, over time, you can see how it kind of disrupts the entire market by having a decent offer, not necessarily perfect, but one that's basically a cheaper price that guys can basically jump on. And so whether you're thinking of like software or anything like that, try to see, hey, what sells now at a premium price? What's a popular thing? And what can I do to try to disrupt basically the market there by either giving the front end away or offering a super cheap price off that when everyone else is charging way more. And then more importantly, how can you monetize it through additional offers and back-end offers? And a few examples of that are like, if let's say you have software that, I don't know, it helps you find real estate deals. So let's say you're into real estate investing. There's lots of software out there that has sold for thousands and thousands of dollars. If you have some software that you make, which is super, super easy to use, does a lot of the same stuff that the real expensive stuff does, and you sell it for dirt cheap or give it away for free, you can sabotage a lot of those larger places, get a lot of the crowds to go over to you, and then on the back end, you could have upsells like, hey, have a free personal examination of up to X amount of offers each month, where you'll personally look over their offers and stuff for X amount of money. That's an appealing offer that people might say, hey, software is great, but it'd be great to have someone who's an expert actually look over the deals I'm about to make, or have some done for you offers that you could sell on the back end for tens of thousands to even hundreds of thousands of dollars. There's tons of ways to monetize that, but you get all those leads in by giving the stuff, away on the front. I'll give a couple more examples in just a bit. But again, this only works if the premium offers that you're competing with are popular and in demand with a large amount of prospects. If there's like a $5,000 or $10,000, offer out there, or even $1,000 or $500 offer out there, if there's not a big market there, it doesn't really work to give the stuff away for very, very cheap or even free, because you'll never get a ton of leads. You have to be in basically a market where it's a big market with lots of prospects, where there's a tool or a product or an offer of some kind that can get a lot of people. And I know some of you are probably asking now, well, how can I tell if a product's big or if there's a lot of people in it? The best advice I can say is use common sense. I mean, if you do a Google search and everyone's talking about a certain product on forums and blogs and stuff like that, it's big. If you look on Amazon and you see a product with hundreds or thousands of reviews, it's probably big. So don't overthink that part. That's probably the biggest enemy you possibly could do, is overthink and say, well, how can I tell if something's really big? You'll know just by within 2 minutes of searching, you should easily know. And the good part too is when these larger guys, which are basically getting a ton of sales and all that, when they're advertising and stuff like that, if you're trying to compete with them with either something that you give away or something that's a fraction of their price, it's actually a good thing when they spend tons of money on advertising or they're super popular, because you can piggyback off of them for virtually nothing. So if someone's spending, let's say, millions of dollars on ads, okay, and you have an offer that's comparable or does the core of what they do, but for a lot less or even free, if they're spending millions of dollars, you can bet that a lot of people might be searching on Google and stuff, trying to see, hey, is this a good, product or offer? Who are these people? And if you start to basically kind of piggyback off that, like if you advertise to people searching for reviews or searching for the name of basically a company or the product, and you start to basically advertise there, or you start to jump into forums and blogs and stuff like that and start to interact with guys and make it known that, hey, there's an offer out there that's free or dirt cheap that does the core of that, you can start to basically piggyback, where there might be guys that say, man, I was about to spend five grand, I wasn't quite sure, but man, there's an offer here to get almost the same thing for free or for 50 bucks or 100 bucks or whatever it might be. You stand out. Where if you have something that's just a little less, like if let's say they sell for 5,000 and you sell it for 4,000, the problem with that is the people then say, well, I've never really heard of this place, and the place that I hear about all the time is only, a fifth of the price more. That's not, or a fourth of the price more. Like that's, they tend to go for the popular, well-known ones. But if you're dirt cheap or free, people are like, I don't care if I don't know this guy at all, I'm going there. So that's actually a good thing to get guys with large ad spends and stuff like that, because you can basically piggyback off of that. And on the affiliate side, you can do a comparable thing too, where if if there's a product that you think is a really awesome deal and a fraction of the price of another, you can start to basically drive lots of traffic looking for that other product to the competitor that you're an affiliate for, knowing that, hey, this is a fraction of the price, does the core of the same thing. A lot of people would have an interest in that, and you can get paid off that. And we'll talk on method number 3, which is to be basically present where everyone's searching. We'll give a lot more basically tips and stuff on that and how to monetize that. But a few examples for this method right here, or this way, is one is a long time back, like I want to say, gosh, maybe 12 to 15 years back. Yeah, probably about that. No, probably about 12 years back or so. I what was in like a bunch of markets, and one was in the wedding / proposal niche. So I'd try to get guys that were either looking to propose or about to be in a wedding, and I thought that'd be kind of a good market, because everyone, or not everyone, but a lot of people at least once basically do that. So I thought, hey, that's a decent market to be in. I've seen some guys do really, really well, and there was a guy who sold basically a handful of ebooks on basically everything from proposal ideas to wedding tips and a whole bunch of stuff like that. He sold a handful of books on that, and he was on the Oprah Winfrey show and a whole bunch of other things. Had tons and tons of publicity and made tons and tons and tons of money off of these books that he has sold. And I thought, man, that's, it's pretty cool that he seems to be making a ton of dough. But I said, it's probably not necessarily an easy way to jump in and compete against a guy who already is a popular guy, who already has been, on the Oprah show, who already has a following. It'd be pretty tough to sell, a course or a book or anything like that for even half that price. But I thought, hey, what if I gave all those tips away and everything away for free? Everything was free. So the question was, hey, would you rather go to my site and read all these free tips and stuff right here? There was like over 100 tips, and he had books that he sold that gave like 100 tips. So for basically almost the same thing, it was different tips and stuff, but same general idea. You could either spend 30 to 50 bucks with him or get it all for free on my site. And you can bet that a lot of people then would go for the free option on my site. And what I did then, of course, I'm not making any money on the free stuff there, but what I did make it on was the back end, because when they got these tips and stuff, I knew what? If they're looking for proposal ideas, most likely they need what? A diamond ring, right? And if they're looking to get a diamond ring, they're probably looking for advice on how to buy a diamond. So I had a lot of tips on how to buy a diamond, on what to look for, and I used affiliate links to what I felt were the best sites out there to buy diamonds. I had the best offers that were at times half the price of what you'd get by going to a physical store. So it was a really awesome deal where it was like, hey, here's a bunch of tips on what to look for, and by the way, here's how you can see that this is at times half the price of your local jeweler. So obviously that caused like a lot of people to look at the offers I had, and a lot of people to go through the affiliate links and buy there. So that's how I monetized that and did quite well there. And the interesting part is, I knew that I probably disrupted his business a bit. And it wasn't just him. There's also a handful of other competitors in that niche too. And I knew I probably disrupted it a decent amount. But what was interesting is that, probably like a year or so after this, I actually had a conversation over email with this guy who was well known and stuff. Because I think I forgot exactly what, but I think we were basically talking about advertising and stuff. My site would oftentimes get contacted to have like a banner ad and stuff on it. We got to basically talking, and he saw that I was the guy that gave away all these free ideas, and he randomly said, two things to me. One, he said, ever since you gave all of your ideas away for free, his business has been cut down by about 2/3 or so. It was some large amount like that. I'm pretty sure he said two-thirds. So he got 2/3 less in sales. So he's only making 1/3 of what he did. So I disrupted his business because a lot of people were basically going towards a free offer. And then he said, I don't mean that in like, a bad way or anything. I'm not upset, because the ideas you have are actually really, really good, and you give like a lot of value. But he found it interesting that a free offer completely decimated basically his business in the matter of a year. So he went from being like the main guy to basically losing 2/3 of the sales just by me giving stuff away on the front end. But I would monetize it by having basically offers and stuff on the back end. Another example outside of mine is, years and years back, there was a lot of credit card places where you'd have to pay to get your score, or they just do like part of a score free and you have to pay to get the rest of it. It was kind of one of those things where it was a good niche, because obviously if you're curious about your credit card score, you're what? You're probably looking to either get like a mortgage on a house or a credit card or something like that. You don't just usually say, gee, I'm curious what my credit score is. You're probably looking to do something. I mean, sure, you might be curious on that, but in a lot of cases, you're probably worth a lot of money to someone because, you know, a mortgage loan or a new credit card, those can be worth a ton of dough. I mean, we're talking thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in profits in a lot of those. So you're worth a lot of dough there. And what a lot of prior places would do, they would, you know, basically charge you for these reports and all that, and they'd make money on the back end there too. But there was, you know, a few years back, there started to be a handful of places like Free Credit Report, .com, and a handful of other ones that came on the scene and gave, like, you know, the main report away for free, and then you could upgrade and get other stuff. And then a short while after that, so they were a major step forward in that you would get the main report for free, and then they'd try to upsell you on, you know, additional reports and stuff like that. But even after that, there were other competitors that came on the scene that gave almost everything away for free, and they would basically monetize it off of, like, you know, additional offers that they might have for recommended credit cards or places to get loans or more mortgages and stuff like that. And it was all, you know, basically a market that was disrupted because someone came on the scene and gave stuff away for free. And the more the places gave away for free, the more they would disrupt the market there. So way number 2 is to be the easiest option out there. So what I mean by this is a lot of people try to focus on being the most advanced offer out there with the most features, longest book length, most whatever. And that's usually not the way to win. Like, I can't tell you the number of guys that I've seen where, you know, they're trying to sell a book and they're like, well, my competitor is only 60 pages long and mine is 500 long, and I don't understand why I'm not making way more sales. And you can't, you know, it doesn't necessarily, you know, it's great if you have a ton of info there, but that doesn't necessarily sell it. Instead, you want to be the easiest to use option out there to appeal to the masses instead of just the most advanced users. A reason is it's oftentimes very hard to always appeal to the most advanced guys out there. And oftentimes it's not a big enough market. For instance, if you look at, like, let's say most autoresponders out there, there's some really advanced ones that have a lot of options, a lot of features, a lot of things that, like, basically coders would love to have because there's tons of advanced things. But they're not easy to use. Like, you almost have to be a programmer to actually use them. And therefore, they're kind of appealing to the super advanced guys, but that's a much smaller market. Whereas the simpler ones that do the core of basically everything, have some, you know, good advanced features and stuff like that, but they're not like super advanced. Those tend to be the ones that can basically grab more of the masses a lot easier because they're appealing to a lot more. Now, they might not have every single feature that the super advanced ones want, but that's okay because they're basically focused on what 95% of their market wants instead of trying to focus all their stuff on the 5%. Especially when, if you try to focus on the most advanced 5%, those guys will always want more and more and more advanced stuff. And they'll be super hard to basically, you know, make happy in the long run, and it'll cost you a lot of money to update and constantly be basically making better and better and better and better. Whereas, like, the 95% that just want the core are much easier to basically appeal to. And as long as you can make it super easy to use, where, you know, someone that knows nothing, you know, can jump right in and use it, it's much more easy to grab a larger piece of the market. Now, this can mean that basically your product is super easy to use, like if you have a software tool or anything like that, or it can mean that your service is the most done for you out there. And note that oftentimes the more done for you an offer is, the more you can charge at the same time. Well, the more easy a product is, the more appealing it will be to the masses. Like, you know, if you're selling, let's say, a service where you do almost everything for them, like let's say you have a web service where you make a website, you optimize the site, you write the content, you optimize that, you do all the stuff, and you hand it to them on a silver platter. You can charge more, and it will be a much more popular product or offer compared to just if you just write them an article and hand them one, or do anything basic like that. I mean, both are services that can sell, but one you can sell for a lot more, and people will find it much easier to actually use. Kind of like this same thing too. If you have a software tool that's really easy to use, where they click basically a button or two, and it gives them basically the solution or the answers that they want, they'll love that. Versus one that if it has like tons and tons and tons of features that they have to click or do all sorts of crazy things, that's harder for them to basically learn, and they tend to not like it as much. And even though you might have tons and tons and tons of features compared to an easy to use guy, people will love the easy to use guy typically a lot more, even if they're not necessarily the most advanced ones out there. So always try to keep that in mind. Now, here's a few examples with that. So years and years and years back, I actually partnered with a person in the real estate investing niche. Now, at the time, again, I had a handful of very good programmers and stuff like that. I didn't know a ton about the real estate investing field, but the person I partnered with knew a ton about it and had like a huge following and all that stuff. And they sold like basically courses on how to find deals and what to look for and stuff like that. And this was a niche that seemed to be like a little behind in times, and that like they really didn't have a lot of software out there. Stuff really wasn't all that easy to do at the time. And the formulas that they had, it was like, you had to know a bunch of math. And to find deals and stuff out there, you had to do a ton of stuff by hand. And even if they had a course that was like only $100, you'd still have to do a lot of work. Whereas I said, hey, let's do some software, which I think we sold for like $4,000, but it'd be super easy to use. So you could do all the stuff by hand, but this would make it easier. With a click of a button, you could find the latest deals out there. With another tool we had, with the click of a button, it would do all the fancy math, equations and stuff that they had, and it would basically to tell you if it's a great deal, a good deal, an okay deal, or a bad deal. So you wouldn't have to do all that math yourself or anything like that right there. And what happened is that we basically disrupted the real estate investing niche, where we were the first guys to have easy to use software to help find leads, but also analyze those leads and deals and stuff too. And we had some really insane, insane sales on that right there, even when we sold it for a really expensive price. Even if we were far more expensive in this case than a lot of others out there, we had the easiest to use application out there, and people loved it. And I didn't really realize it at the time, but years and years and years and years later, a handful of other guys in that niche I was basically talking to, and a few of them were saying that I myself disrupted that entire marketplace back then because of the easy to use software that I introduced. And like since then, there's a lot of people that try to like copy and mimic that and have other software tools and stuff like that, but it all initially started by me having some easy to use solution or option out there, even at a premium price, sold for quite well. Another thing that you'll see completely outside of that is, with like places like Amazon and Apple and stuff like that, the tech that they sell has basically been easier and easier to use. Like when the iPhone first came out, it was basically a single button. There was a home button, and the rest you just click on whatever apps you wanted. Whereas the prior phones, I don't know how. I'm sure most of you probably remember at least some of the phones prior. You have to click like it was like just to play a game. You'd have to click like a button here, scroll down here, click like another button, click like another one, and it took like 3 or 4 clicks to get to what you wanted. And it wasn't necessarily that easy to use. I mean, you could learn it. It didn't seem insanely hard at the time. It's like, oh, games are just here. You have to click this button, then this button, then this one, and then this right here, and you're in a game. Boom. So I mean, it's not that hard once you knew what you were doing. But compare it to like the new tech, the first Apple iPhone, where it's like, oh, you just scroll here and click whatever app you want. You're like, wow, that's super, super, super easy. And now with the Amazon stuff, they have the, especially in the US, they have the whole Alexa stuff where you don't even have to type or do anything. You just ask Alexa. If you want to even buy stuff, you can just ask Alexa to add the stuff to your cart. Or if you want to buy anything online now, basically Amazon's the easiest option. Now you don't have, and the reason is you don't have to go to Google first. So it used to be you'd go to Google, you'd basically type in a product you want to buy, you'd look through like a handful of websites, you'd pick one that you thought looked good or was like a cheap price and all that, and then you'd have to compare like hey, well, one might be a bit less, but it might charge for shipping. This one might not. It was a decent amount of work, not a ton of work, but still a decent amount compared to if you just go to Amazon. You type in what you want, you see a list, you can see what the cheapest one is, you can see what one's the most popular one or rated the best, you can see which one has like the free shipping, and you can see all that stuff right there. It's super easy. So Amazon has basically made it super easy to do all sorts of stuff like that, and the easier they make it, the more and more that they're used, to the point where they grow so fast that now everyone just goes to Amazon pretty much anytime they want to buy anything, with like a few exceptions there, and that's why they're so big now. The other thing is, like, if you sell any kind of DFY or done for you option, if you have, again, super easy options out there where you do a lot more work for the people, they're much more likely to like the offers or the products that you have, the more you include and the more you do for them. So again, regardless of what you do, try to think of how can you make your product or your offer truly the easiest one out there to actually use. And the third and final option is to what I call to be everywhere. Now keep in mind, you can mix and match these options. I'm not saying you do just one. Oftentimes you want to do all of them, or at least a mix of them. But this third one here I think is really important for almost anything, is to be everywhere. So you can have the best kind of product or the best offering in the world, but if no one knows about you, it doesn't really matter. Now, traditional ways of getting basically traffic or sales or anything, which is usually through like normal rankings, paid ads and so forth, can be time consuming and or expensive. Instead, you can mimic what a prospect would do or where they'd look and try to make sure that you have a presence there. For instance, put yourself in the shoes of your prospects. If you're selling let's say you're selling, an autoresponder service, or let's say you're selling a natural remedy for, I don't know, back pain, or anything like that. What would a prospect of yours do? Well, first, they probably would do maybe like a Google search, and if you're selling, or even if you're like an affiliate for an autoresponder, they'd probably do a search like what is the best autoresponder out there, or and then once they do that, they might continuously see like certain ones that pop up. Like maybe if you spend like even 15 minutes doing a search as them, and you read like a bunch of these sites on what is the best autoresponder, usually you might read like 5 sites, and 4 of the sites will probably continuously mention like 2 or 3 options. So 2 or 3 options at that point are probably in their minds. So what do they do next? They probably look for reviews on those specific ones, or they look for like product 1 versus product 2, or basically autoresponder 1 versus autoresponder 2. And then you might see, hey, when you do a search like that, there might be like a mix of blog posts, there might be a mix of forums, so on and so forth. So there's 2 different things that you can do. One, you can try to target the keywords that you think prospects would be trying to go for. like if you find that, hey, after all the searches and stuff, they're probably looking for comparisons between these two products right here. Maybe if you're an affiliate, maybe target the keyword like product 1 versus product 2, and give basically a breakdown of what you think the pros and cons of each one are, and which one, in which case, you think they should go for. That can work incredibly well. And the competition usually isn't terribly fierce in that, so it's pretty easy to rank. So that's the first thing that you can do right there. The second thing that you can do is that when you do any of the searches in Google for any of these keywords, you can find the forums and blog posts and stuff that you can leave some kind of a reply or a comment on. So if you see a guy saying, you know, hey, has anyone used this service or that, and have, you know, any opinion which one's better, you can chime in and say, hey, you know, I've used these, or I've used this one right here. Here are the pros and cons of each one. If you want a more in-depth review, I actually wrote a review of the two of them on my blog post right here if you want to check them out. Or say, hey, here's a video breakdown on YouTube of the pros and cons of each one that you might find helpful. And then, of course, on basically video, you could drive them to your affiliate link, or on the blog post that you have, you would drive them to an affiliate link there. So what happens is, if you spend some time basically doing this, every search term that they look on, and every forum or message board or blog that they happen across, they have a good chance of eventually basically stumbling across the reply or the post that you have. And you'll start to stand out as, hey, this guy appears to have like a lot of reviews out there, appears to know his stuff. They'll see your stuff. They're more likely to click on it, and they're likely to read the advice and stuff that you have, especially if you do it in a non-spammy way. And you can drive a lot of sales that way as well for basically free. You know, you don't have to even like do a ton of work, because what happens was, when you do a single post like that, that post might stay up there for, you know, months or even years down the line. It can bring a lot of money in over time. I actually, you know, a perfect, you know, example of this right here, I actually had an old post from, I don't know how long ago, but let's say like maybe eight years plus, if not more ago, maybe even 10 years ago. I had a affiliate review post of some autoresponders out there, and I'd basically target various keywords like, you know, autoresponder 1 versus 2, or review of review of autoresponder 1. You know, I'd list the pros and cons out, and I'd find like a handful of people on like forum threads and stuff that were basically talking about it, and I'd give some pros and cons, and you know, I'd leave link up to like, you know, a blog post I had and stuff like that. And over time, it actually pulled in a lot of traffic. Or I shouldn't necessarily say a lot of traffic. It wasn't like millions of hits or anything like that, but it pulled in a lot of targeted, valuable traffic that turned into a lot of sales. And over time, like I think the initial review I wrote maybe took me like a half hour to write, maybe an hour tops, but I think only probably like, you know, a half hour, I'm guessing. And the extra work I did initially was, you know, maybe like an hour to 2 in total. Finding like a bunch of sites, leaving posts and stuff on them, and pretty much I left that alone without really doing anything more active. And that has made, last I checked, I think it was close to $20,000 in commissions. And it get anywhere from, it wasn't necessarily like overnight, but it would range from like, you know, like anywhere from you know, like 20 to 50 bucks a month up to hundreds of dollars a month in commissions, completely hands-free, to over time, again, well over $10,000. I think even over, you know, I'm pretty sure it's over the 20,000 buck range, because I think I checked a long time back and it was like 17 or 18 grand. I haven't checked in a long time, but I still get checks each month. So I'm pretty sure over 20 grand in commissions from something that was done, you know, again, probably close to like a decade ago. But because I did those posts way back when, people that, and you know, happen across the old posts and stuff like that see me right there. Another example is, I had another like a mobile autoresponder where I didn't do any paid ads or anything like that, but I had a guy initially years back just took a little time to do a handful of searches in Google, find places that he could leave a post, comment, or reply on where people are asking questions, and he wouldn't necessarily be spammy. He would say he'd be very, very blunt and say, hey, I'm a worker of this place here. I see you're asking basically a question on this. We have this, and that. If you have any questions, you can feel free to write me or check us out right here. And we estimate that probably 2/3 to 3/4 of our sales have come from that campaign right there, from just basically going out there and posting in where people are probably actively looking. And it starts by basically trying to put yourself in the prospect's shoes, mimic what they'd search for, where they'd go, so on and so forth. And Webfire also has a handful of tools to help with just that. So like if you're looking for like new forum threads or blog posts, we have the real-time lead finder. If you're looking to basically hijack existing rankings, like sites that rank on page 1 for all sorts of terms, and that you can leave a post, or like a comment or reply on. We also have the ranked lead finder that can do just that, so you can hijack lots of traffic from page 1. Another trick kind of outside of those is you can even kind of do some PR. So we have the guest blog post finder inside of Webfire, where you can find all sorts of places that accept guest blog posts, and you kind of get your message out there. You can offer like a free blog article and stuff like that. And if you start to show up, on the forums and in the blogs, and you have a bunch of articles that are like guest blog ones, over time you start to get a lot of publicity. If you want to take it to the extreme end, which I don't think you have to in this case, but one trick that can work really well on the PR side is to write up basically an article that's unique for each one, for a high-end place, whether it be a big blog or like a magazine or a newspaper or anything like that. Send it out to the editor of that section, and say, hey, I see you sometimes run articles in this. I actually wrote one up for you right here, which you can feel free to use at any point in time. You can also change or edit basically anything you want, yada yada. And if you have any additional questions, you can feel free to reach out to me right here. I actually had a client that did just that, and he's actually done it since I think like the 70s. So he's like an older guy. And back then, of course, he couldn't, email them. He'd have to either like mail them like a physical thing, or do a fax, is what he actually did most of the time right there. Now it's even easier because you can email. And he said, with all that work on, in like an average year, typically each week at least one place would run basically a story on him or his stuff, or on the niche that it was in, where basically mentioned his product or service or his name and such. He got a lot of free PR that way, because people would rather, like the news guys and the editors, they'd rather take the easy way out and use the free article that they don't have to do any work on, versus having to research something brand new that themselves and do all that work. So he basically took advantage of people wanting the easy way out. Another thing that you can do to be everywhere is to look to partner with market leaders that already have huge chunks of the market. So you don't necessarily, have to grow yourself that large. You can look for existing market leaders that are really, really big that you can partner with, give a good chunk of the sales. And again, you want to make it as hands-free as possible for them. So if you do a deal, you want to make sure they get, again, a very big chunk of the sales. If you try to give them like a small cut, they'll just ignore you. Because again, these guys could clone you if they want to, in most cases. So you don't want to basically come off in that way. You want to make it like, hey, you can make a huge chunk right here. It will all be hands-free. You'll handle all this support and everything, so it's like completely hands-free for them. And all they have to do is basically essentially market it or push it. That can work extremely well. And that's one of the things that I did, with the real estate, investing thing, is I went to a market leader right there. I got in front of a lot of faces of a lot of people that could use that, and we made a lot of money off that. So that's one thing to keep in mind right there, that you don't necessarily have to grow yourself that large. You can automatically go to the guys who are already large and see how you can leverage them in a deal. And this is one that I think is grossly underdone, because a lot of people don't think to do this, but it's one of the easiest ways to kind of jumpstart and go straight from almost nothing to making a ton, is to make a deal with the market leaders currently out there. And there's a lot of them. I mean, if you reach out to even a couple a week, eventually you'll land a deal. If you don't, you're probably doing something wrong. Like your deal isn't good, your product isn't good, or something like that, but that's all stuff that you can fix. As far as being everywhere, a couple examples, like ClickBank originally, if you wanted to be an affiliate for basically a digital, book or tool or anything, ClickBank at one point was like the only place that was really talked about. There were a handful of other options out there. I mean, now there's a few more, but years back, everyone would basically talk about ClickBank. So if you were in like an affiliate course, people talk about, hey, you can just go to ClickBank because it was free, and that's basically, another thing. They are mentioned all over, but it's free to sign up and join it, initially, and all that too. Even though they charge fees and stuff, it's free to sign up and use all that. And initially, they'd be mentioned everywhere. They'd be mentioned on forums, blogs, and on top of that, they were also a free option, so they gained a lot of publicity right off the bat. Amazon, basically the same thing. If you want to buy anything, Amazon's mentioned everywhere because it's the place you can find and use basically everything. But a smaller example was years and years back, there was a little push to sell shirts online. So you could sell like a custom shirt. And this was like a pretty big deal at the time, and like there was like a major buzz. A lot of guys are like, oh, look, you can sell shirts and hats and all sorts of custom stuff. And at the time, there weren't like a ton of options that were like well known, but there was like places like Teespring and stuff like that that made it super easy to customize shirts and stuff and sell those online. So they started to do like deals with other products and stuff out there. They had like an affiliate program, I think, where places could get paid. And they started to be mentioned on a lot of different sites and places, and they literally were everywhere where everyone knew of them. And they're like, hey, this is the place to basically be, and this is the place to use to get that done right there. So you don't necessarily have to be on like the same level as like a ClickBank or like an Amazon, but you can start to see, hey, what can I do to get my product or service, or me as a whole, a bit more well known? What can I do to find forums and blogs out there that I can start to interact with? What can I do to start to rank for some easy terms out there? Rank both on like possibly a blog or like a website, or also on YouTube and stuff like that. How can I try to pick like the easiest keywords to rank for, and basically grow like your spider web to expand out? Or what can I do to try to maybe approach other blogs about guest blog posting? Or what can I do to possibly partner with other market leaders out there who already have a huge market share and stuff like that? And if you start to really think about that, combined with the other methods here, I think that will make a world of difference in your businesses. So with that, guys, that actually went a little longer than I thought, but we still have some time for any kind of questions that you guys have. So we'll do any of those right now, and then we'll do the cash giveaway right after. And to do that, you just have to make sure you first join the free Facebook group at getwebfire.com/FB group. Click join if you're not a free member yet. Again, it's free. Sharon will approve you within like a minute or two. She has a post towards the very top that basically asks what you thought of today's call. If you leave a comment within the post there, so make sure you leave it within the post right there. Just click basically the comment and post whatever you thought, or if you have any suggestions for a future call or anything like that, feel free to write that, and we'll pick a random winner. We'll actually do a live drawing in a few moments here. So just make sure to leave a comment right there, and we'll pick a random winner soon. But in the meantime, let's see what questions you guys have. So I'll just actually pause the screen a second. I'll go to the Facebook group page right here. All right, So here's the page right here, and it's the post at the very top. You see Sharon just did a post right here, basically asking what you thought of today's call, and just leave a comment right here. Just click basically comment. Of course, we always appreciate likes and shares too, but if you leave a comment, we'll make sure to pick a random winner in just a few moments time. Yeah, so all right, so I'll move on to the questions now. All right, it's much easier on the questions when Sean's here, because he can read out ones that I've missed. All right. All right, there's a question here that said, and this was, I believe this was basically in reference to when I basically said how you want to either give stuff away or be like super cheap. A person asked here, well, what if I made like an intro video or product or a course for like 10 bucks or 10 pounds is what she said, but doesn't really matter what the price is right there. I would actually say, rather than do just an intro for 10 bucks, I would probably give that away for free, especially if it's just like an intro, because you can kind of hook them in and then charge a lot more past that. This person said here, what about like a half price monthly fee as a trial? Depending upon what the trial is, I'd say, no. I mean, you could probably do like free or like $1, but you really want to, like, if you're trying to move guys in, you want to entice them in with like a crazy offer to get them in initially. Now, if you're basically doing like a physical service, yeah, that won't work. So you could have like a special deal where that could work, where it's like half off or something like that. But if you're using that, it really has to be an insane deal that's a lot less than the competition. All right. All right, this person asks here, what are the best offers that make a difference for local businesses that you can also easily cut off if they're not interested? What I assume you mean by cut off is if they don't pay after like a month or two. Well, there's a bunch of options, but I say like one that almost every local business needs is rankings and such, and that can come in the form of like ranking their site, doing a blog for them and ranking that, doing YouTube videos and ranking that, and all this stuff right there. You can basically say, hey, if they don't pay, you can stop basically doing the additional work and stuff. That's all fine. Especially on the SEO side, there's also oh gosh, okay, yeah, it slipped my mind for a second what the name was, but I was referring to a schema. You could also do a schema for them, which basically is it has like their business name and their number and all that stuff can pop up on Google in a big way. That's the kind of thing that for $500 to $1,000 is a steal of a deal for a lot of those guys. All right, John said, how can he learn to do that with the software? So yeah, a lot of the stuff you can actually do with the software. So if you're trying to find places to like leave a post or a comment on, you can do that within Webfire. You can use the Rank Lead Finder, the Real-Time Lead Finder and all that right there. And we have lots and lots of training on just that. But if you jump right in, you can use those tools right off the bat, and it's fairly easy, especially if you watch the walkthrough on those right there. And if you have any further questions or anything like that, again, just feel free to reach out to us right there. Okay. All right. John said, where can I find out where to blog on someone's blog? Inside of Webfire, one of the tools we have is called the guest blog post finder. You type in your niche, like weight loss or golf or whatever it is, and it can actually find places that accept guest blog posts for you, that you can either click on the links to submit your post right there, or you can email them with a click of a button right there. All right. Okay, this person asked on the keyword suggestions I gave when I basically talked about how you could target terms like, product 1 versus product 2. They basically asked if you should propose product C instead, or 3. And in that case, no, I would not in most cases. And here's why. If someone's basically looking for product 1 versus product 2, they're probably set on one of those two. They just don't know which one. So if you try to change their mind and go to product 3, unless there's a major reason why, you disrupt basically their thought, and you tend to probably lose that sale. Whereas if you can convince them, hey, if they narrowed it down to 2 options, and you give them reasons why one is probably a better bet, they're much more likely to immediately make that sale. It's kind of like if you tell me, like, you're like, I don't know what I want for dinner, but I'm thinking of either pizza or tacos. Okay, so you're in the mood for pizza or tacos now, and you're not quite sure which one, and you ask me for my opinion on which one I think you should have, and which restaurant maybe has the best pizza or tacos in my area. If I say, hey, well, there's both those are good foods, but there's a restaurant here that has amazing tacos, you're probably likely to say, oh man, okay, so both are good, but there's an amazing, let's say like a taco joint here, you're probably going to go there. Whereas if I say, hey, here's all the pizza and taco places, oh, but by the way, there's there's an I don't know, let's say like a Chinese food place here that has great food. You might say, oh gee, now that I think about it, I might want that, but you're already kind of set on tacos or pizza. So why should I try to push you into Chinese food when you already told me that you're interested in tacos and pizza? So it can happen, sure, but it's much more tough. All right, Jay asked, what's the best way to disrupt a market for leadership online programs? Kind of like the exact same stuff that I said. I mean, you can kind of go through, use those same tips right there, see what the competition's doing, see what the top 1 or 1s are doing, see what's said online, and if you have something that you could do for free to kind of hook them in, you certainly can right there. You can use a lot of the tools inside of Webfire to try to kind of piggyback off of the competition there, find guys asking questions and stuff online, and maybe kind of shove them into some kind of free offer that you have initially. That's kind of one of the things off the top of my mind right there. All right. Hannah asked for examples of making deals. So if you're trying to make like a partnership with like a market leader, don't overthink it. Basically, the deal would be you just reach out to them in an email, and you say, hey, I specialize in this. I make a lot of products in this, and I'm looking to partner with one, leader in the field. And then you say what basically the terms are. I would recommend a minimum of paying half, if not more. If it's anything less, they probably won't even look at you. and then also say that you'll do all this support and all that right there. The second you try to make it complicated or anything like that, you lose them, because these are guys that they have the advantage, you don't. So basically treat them as that. And it's as easy as that. So don't overthink that. But we actually do have some prior calls where we actually talk about just that right there. So definitely make sure to check out some of those. Nick asked if there's a tool we have that spies on the competition. Yes. We actually have a competition section inside of Webfire. One of the tools to see is a backlinks one, which will show you where they're getting their backlinks from. And we even have, it's a beta version on Windows right now, but we'll have it go on the Mac soon. That there's basically a beta feature that allows you to see the banner ads and stuff that they have as well. But on both the Mac and the Windows, we have one that can show you where basically they're getting their traffic from. That's just the backlinks tool right there. All right. How many tags should I have in an article, 2,000 words or so? Not sure quite what you mean. If you mean like a keyword tag, those don't make a major difference. You just want to make sure that the keyword you're trying to rank for is targeted in the title of that really well. It doesn't have to be only, like if you have a keyword, make sure that it's at least somewhere in the title. You can have a longer title with more stuff in it, but make sure it at least contains the keyword right there. That's far more important than the actual tags. And then make sure to mention the keyword at least once or twice throughout the article itself. Okay. All right, and yes, this person asked, the spinning tool, is it possible to input the article with the keywords, then check for plagiarism afterwards? Well, if you use the tool on your own stuff and you follow the tool that we have, you won't have to worry about the plagiarism. Because just make sure to watch the walkthrough on that, because it does. So you don't want to take an existing article that's not yours. You want to only use ones that are yours, and then it walks you through how to change that up very easily to turn one into hundreds of unique copies right there. Okay, Pat asked how I suggest they start making money online. Well, we actually have in the training in Webfire, in one of the bonuses, we actually have 5 easy ways to kind of start essentially a business of some kind to earn like $1,000 or more as like a goal. So we can kind of walk you through what you'd want to do right there. But there's lots of different ways that you could do. So there is no like one way that's like best for everyone. Whether you want to be like an affiliate or do your own product or have a service, we have some training on that kind of walks you through the different options that you can kind of go from there. So I suggest you go through that. Okay. And yes, on something like a schema service, you would want to be paid either upfront or once the work's done on that. All right, this person asked, does Webfire make changes to your PC? There's nothing that does on your PC or Mac. There is a desktop app that you basically install to use some of the tools, like if you want to get alerts for like new leads each day, but there's no actual changes to your desktop itself. Yeah, Mike. You can use the article vault. So I thought when there was a person that asked on spinning articles, and I said make sure that they're your own. The stuff in the vault you certainly can use, but I was saying like you don't want to grab an article that's not yours, but it's on like a random site online. You don't want to spin those. You want to have something that's yours or you have the rights to. And Mike, you certainly could use the article vault to grab various content and stuff if you want that. But if you're looking to rank a lot, I would probably try to change those up or spin those. So with that, guys, I think I answered all the questions here. April asked, when will the update transfer schema be ready to show how to do schemas for videos. Well, to use the schema is pretty easy. We have the walkthrough right there, so that's all very, very easy to add those. If there's a specific question you have, though, let us know or write support, and if we need to clarify anything in the training, we definitely can update that for you. All right, this person said here, they feel like they spend a lot of time writing lawn articles, but they feel like they don't necessarily reach as many people. Well, two things there. One, you don't have to have super long articles. It's much more important to have relevant ones that people find useful than really long ones, which sometimes tends to scare off guys. But more importantly, you want to make sure that you target the proper keywords in your titles and such to have the best chance of ranking. You can use the keyword tool inside of Webfire to see what would give you the best chance of ranking and try to target those guys right there. Francis, as far as services you have control over, there's lots of stuff on the SEO side, on the video side. There's also social media management, where if someone stops paying, you can just stop basically doing, management and stuff like that. But my concern with you is that you seem to be a little worried on, what happens if a person does not pay, or they basically stop after a few months. Don't worry as much about that and focus more on what can you do to get more sales in versus what happens if a person leaves after three months. I think that will make a world of difference. But anything with SEO, you can stop on going to work. Social media management, you can immediately stop. Ad management, you can immediately stop. With like a schema, that's usually more of like a one-time thing that you're paid up front for, or once it's done. But yeah. All right, and you should all be approved the second you join the Facebook group. Sharon approves you within a minute or two. All right, Wendy asked if we have a beginner call to show how to get started. Yeah, if you have Webfire, we actually have some Jumpstart training and stuff like that, which walks you through all that right there. If you don't know where that is, it's just at the very top of the members area. But if you're completely confused, just write support@webfire.com and they'll provide you with an exact link. Or if you're looking to get Webfire and want like an overview of it all, we can get you that link as well. So just write support@webfire.com. All right, so it's time to give some money away. All right, so I'm just gonna refresh the page right here. All right, all right, make sure to only leave one post here because it makes it more fair. All right, so I'll count the ones up outside first. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, 4 plus. Person's right now, or it looks like no. We'll say 3. This person wrote twice here. That's fine. We'll still count that. So 4 plus 36. So 40. All right. So 1 to 40. We'll go to here to get the random winner. 8. That makes it easy. All right, 8 is the winner. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's double check the counted right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. So, John Bergman, this is you, or looks like you. Congratulations. You're $100 richer, or you will be as soon as you post up your PayPal email to Sharon in the box. So make sure you post that up in the box or in the chat box, and we'll make sure to PayPal it to you this afternoon or as soon as you send us your PayPal info. So again, congratulations to John Bergman for being this week's Wednesday Marketing Webinar winner. And as always, guys, every Wednesday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time, we'll have a new call. So make sure to join us next week, again, Wednesday at 2. I'll see if there's any last-minute questions. Doesn't look like... Yep, looks like we got everything covered right there. So with that, guys, again, thanks for being on this call. If you have any other questions or anything like that, feel free to write support@webfire.com, and we'll make sure to get back to you right away. So with that, hope you guys have a great rest of the week, and I'll talk to you guys later. Take care.